Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to welcome you to the Philippine Tourism Country Closed Roundtable presentation for the Annual Investment Meeting 2017 in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. And to start off, we would like to show you a video of what is tourism in the Philippines. The beauty and the splendor of tourism in the Philippines, its prospects and its potential. So let's just look at the screen and we'll play the video.
Think I can fly when I'm with you. My arms are wide, catching fire as the wind blows. I know that I'm rich in love for pride. I see $1 billion in your eyes. Even if we're strangers till we die. Chase the moon and sun when I'm with you. Give it all away. Catching fire as the wind blows. I'm never rich enough for pride. I see $1 billion in your eyes. Even if we're strangers till we die.
So thank you for watching, and it really entices you to visit the Philippines, right? So this is the wonder of the Philippines and the great potential in the business of tourism in the Philippines. And let me introduce to you the next speaker. He is the person in Dubai with a lot of mosts. The youngest and the most handsome, most beloved the most beloved person in UAE by the Filipino community here. And I know you all know him well. So without further ado, we'd like to call on the Philippine Consul General to Dubai, United Arab Emirates, Mr. Paul Raymond Cortez.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I trust you had a wonderful lunch after that wonderful opening ceremony we had. But welcome to the Philippine Closed Country Roundtable. Well, it's not really round, but it's U-shaped. Nonetheless, you get the idea. But thank you very much for those who had come and go on with our invite. It's been quite some time since I've seen most of you. Well, wonderful. Thank you for coming over. A lot of you probably don't need any introduction to who the Filipino is. There are maybe 800,000 of us here, and at some point or another, you've dealt, worked, lived, and had business with Filipinos. Am I right? Right. And for some of you, you probably have an image of the Filipino, of the Philippine perspective, I should say, here in the UAE. But what exactly are we trying to sell? We're trying to sell the Filipino people. We're trying to sell the Filipino nation. We're trying to sell the Filipino soul to the market here in the UAE. And how best to understand that but through the visions of the Filipino as a nation. And here we have 2022 and 2040. We call it Ambition 2040, meaning ambitions of our nation as a 20 years from now, 23 years from now. 2022 is the end of the term of our current administration under President Rodrigo Duterte. Well, 2040 is one of his strategic plans, is a year that he had highlighted to find out exactly what we want to be in 23 years. And just key points for the 2040 ambition is extreme poverty eradicated, as you can see, inclusive political and economic growth, be beneficial not only to a select few, but to the broad base of the Philippine society, and achieve a high income status, falling between 3,000 and 12,000 gross national income per capita. And how do we do that? Well, we hope that people would invest, the international market would invest in the Philippines. A while back, during the global debate, it was a question of whether one country should have strong economic growth before investment or the other way around. And it's a chicken and egg situation, but what we are trying to do is trying to lay out the foundation so that the international market and the international investment community would look at the Philippines as something that is sound and stable. Some country with a measurable GDP growth, a high GDP growth for that matter, coupled with low inflation and a broad-based growth, not only to specific economic sectors, but to the whole range of macroeconomic data. Now, many have called the Philippines the sick man of Asia for the past couple of years, but in the past 7, 10 years, we've seen our rebound. As you can see with this map, we had like 40 years of growth below 6%, but beginning 2010, in the last administration, until now, we are enjoying a good GDP growth of about 6% plus. Now, what does that mean in terms of the lives of our people? Of course, it means better opportunities for the Filipino people, both in the Philippines and for those overseas Filipinos as well, because they do have low inflation, which means basically low prices. But not only are we looking at good macroeconomic data, we are also looking at investments and services as major drivers of growth. Not only do we have capital formation as a measure for these drivers of growth, but we're also looking at kind of supply and expenditure. Now, I don't probably need to tell everyone where the Philippines is. It's at the tail end of the Southwest Pacific, and it has become not just strategically located because it is the logistics hub of Southeast Asia. It is a major transshipment center for all goods and services within Southeast Asia. It has quite a number of free port zones, IT zones, and cyber parks. Just to give you a geographical snapshot of where we are conveniently at the center of the world. We put it that way so that you can see that we're not just close to mainland Asia, but we're also a bridge to the West. Remember, 350 years ago, one of the largest trading routes was the Manila-Acapulco route. Acapulco in Mexico and Manila, which basically brought the two ends of that world together. We have quite a number of special economic zones operating nationwide. In particular, 73 industrial and export processing zones, 246 IT parks and centers, 19 tourism eco zones, 2 medical tourism parks, and 21 agro-industrial parks. I do believe we have somebody from the medical city who should be here in a couple of minutes, who we'll probably talk about in our Q&A on medical tourism parks. What are the various incentives for our investors? Well, one, we're hoping it would be enticing enough for investors because we have a simplified customs process. We have various income tax holidays, duty-free and tax and duty-free importation, an exemption from mortgage and export taxes, and of course tax exemptions and credits. We will be discussing, I'm sure the tourism people will be discussing all these taxes in more detail later. This is a snapshot of what we have as incentives. Suffice it to say, it should be very enticing. All right. What are the other political structures that have made investment in the Philippines rosy? One, well, we have good government support, strong foundations as far as our political infrastructure is concerned. We have a number of qualified technical people to work out these investments. 3, we have the IT infrastructure. As you know, the Philippine business processing outsource field has been one of the drivers of growth of the Philippine economy in the past 10 years. We have people in the accounting, finance, and engineering technical requirement skills, which we are able to supply not only in the Philippines and even across the globe, as you may know. What is our President's chief infrastructure plan? Well, it's basically to build, and to build. What he wants to do is to develop as much infrastructure as possible to allow international investors to come in and make a home out of their own commercial businesses and entities. All right. So far, we've had a couple of achievements in the past couple of years, particularly pertinent to governance, I should say, and anti-corruption structures. According to the World Bank study, we've moved 18 points up the ladder of governance and anti-corruption, and 5 points up from the ease of doing business in the Philippines. So as you can see, we're trying to address the issues that have long been hounding the international community as far as investments in the Philippines is concerned. But most importantly, what we want to sell to the global community is how great the human capital the Philippines has. Its human resources is something that is worth mentioning. Why? Because we have 101 million people enjoying almost 95% literacy, and a young labor force. The demographic of the Philippines makes it very easy enough to understand that when you have a young and vibrant population, educated at that, it is very easy to just go into the Philippines and invest as much as you can, because you will get your return from one of the largest English-speaking countries of the world, a country that has over 500,000 in business, IT, and engineering, and one that is very steep on science and technology and mathematics. All right. And I would cut my presentation a little bit short because what we want to do is to devote more of our time to tourism infrastructure, but this presents a snapshot of the Philippines as an investment site, not only for our friends and commercial business partners here in the UAE, but for the rest of the world for that matter. Thank you so much, and we'll be open to questions a little later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Brown, for that very interesting talk. And okay, we have seen the publicity. We want to visit the Philippines as a tourist. And after the talk of our Consul General, maybe we're thinking, I just don't want to be a tourist. I want also to be a businessman. Because of the opportunities, I want to invest. So where should I invest, or where would I invest? And this next speaker of ours will be talking about that. The opportunities of where to invest in tourism, and how to invest, and what we do get in investing into tourism through the Tourism Infrastructure and Enterprise Zone Authority of the Philippines. And I'd like to introduce our speaker. He is a department manager for the Tourism Enterprise Zone Assistance and Monitoring Department, Mr. Hernando Ianao.
Good afternoon. I am Hernan from the Tourism Infrastructure and Enterprise Zone Authority of the Philippines. I will be talking about the Tourism Enterprise Zone in the Philippines and our areas for investment, accommodation facilities, which includes hotels, resorts, tourism enterprise zones, transportation facilities, health and wellness, MICE facilities, theme parks, agri-tourism facilities, retirement villages, and the tourism training centers and institute. What is CHESA? CHESA is our company. It is a government corporation. It is formally known as the Philippine Tourism Authority, and it is an attached agency with the Department of Tourism. CHESA is mandated to designate areas as tourism enterprise zone and to register tourism enterprises. Once it is designated, we will grant incentives, both fiscal and non-fiscal incentives. A TEZ, or a Tourism Enterprise Zone, it is any geographic area with the following characteristic. One, it is an area capable of being defined into one contiguous territory. It has historical, cultural significance, environmental beauty, or existing or potential integrated leisure facilities. It has strategic access through transportation, infrastructure, and reasonable connection with utilities. It is must also be sufficient in size. Basically, we required TEZ to be at least 5 hectares in area. It is also must be a strategic location, such as to catalyze the socio-economic development of the neighboring community. What are the types of TEZ? First, we have the Cultural Heritage Tourism Zone. Cultural Heritage Tourism Zone is an area wherein a visitor or a tourist can experience the place together with its inhabitants. It could be a cultural landscape, historic sites. It can also be a museum and art galleries. We have also the Health and Wellness Tourism Zone. Okay? In a Health and Wellness Tourism Zone, the tourist or the visitor can experience affordable, mainstream, traditional, and alternative health services, just like spas, health farms, community and rehabilitation services, the medical like hospitals that will cure cancer illness, etc. Then we have also the ecotourism zone. In an ecotourism zone, it is an area that will allow the visitor to experience the sustainable tourism within, okay, within a given natural areas. Example of those would be a site wherein there is a scenic, a natural, and environmental beauty, like the rural areas in the Philippines. You can also have it as a wildlife thing, and such activities that is low impact activities such as diving, surfing, camping, etc. Next, we have the general leisure tourism zone. It is some areas that offer recreational facilities that will have a high impact or density impact of tourism. Example of those would be resorts, golf courses, sports complexes, theme parks, amusement centers, convention, meeting, and other centers. The department store can also be included in that. Restaurants, shops, and zoos. And lastly, we have the mixed-use tourism zone. It is an areas that will allow the combination of those both or some of all the aforementioned zones within one area. Who may apply for designation of a TEZ? It can be a private entity created under the Corporation Code of the Philippines, a local government unit, or any instrumentality of the government in the pursuit of its mandate. Can also be a joint venture between the private and the public sector. What are the process in the designation of a TEZ? First, the proponent will file an application, and the CHESA, or our company, will evaluate the application and the qualification document. Some of the pre-qualification document would be the SEC, or the Securities and Exchange Commission registration, the certificate of the articles of incorporation and bylaws, the joint venture agreement if it is in a joint venture scheme, the company profile, the vicinity map that will reflect the various land uses, and the proof of ownership, and in your case, if it is a foreigner, the long-term lease agreement. Upon completion of the document, we also we will have the proponent to complete the requirements, and that requirement will include the development plan of the project. Okay. In the development plan, it includes the amount to be invested by the investor, the proponent, the areas that is allotted for infrastructure development, and what kind of development should be put in such areas. Also, the market studies, the studies that pertains to the economic, okay, impact of the development in the community. And likewise, to name a few, the energy efficiency, the climate change mitigation measures that would be implemented in such a project. After that, the CHESA board will deliberate on the evaluation report, and if approved, the proponent will sign the designation agreement with our office, and we will issue the certificate of designation. What are the example of facilities, services, and attraction involved in tourism? As I mentioned before, Those are the example of facility services and attraction. We have the tourism estate management services, restaurant, shop, sports and recreational centers, facilities offering health and wellness services, the museums and galleries, travel and tour services, tourist transport will include land, seas, and air transportation, convention organizer, accommodation establishment, theme parks, convention centers, and zoos. We also provide, the investor fiscal and non-fiscal incentives. And among the fiscal incentives would be income tax holiday. We will give 6 years plus another 6 years of exemption from paying the income tax. We also have the net loss carryover, which means that the losses for a certain year can be deducted from the income of the following 6 consecutive years. We also have the gross income taxation. And after the income tax holiday, you can go directly to the gross income taxation, which means that you will be only paying 5% of your gross income. In the Philippines, the normal tax rate is 30%. Tax and duty-free importation of capital investment and equipment, tax and duty-free importation of transportation equipment and spare parts, and tax and duty-free importation of goods and services. Likewise, a tax credit would be given to the investor on all locally sourced goods and services. Also, one of the incentives is a 50% tax deduction on costs on social responsibility that is given by the investor to what? To the cultural heritage, preservation activities, and sustainable livelihood program. On our non-fiscal incentives, we have employment of foreign nationals. We will allow the registered enterprise to employ foreign national in executive, supervisory, technical, or advisory position. We also issue special investor resident visa. Those foreign nationals who will invest at least $200,000 US dollars in a registered tourism enterprise or registered on TEC, their dependents and unmarried children shall be entitled to the special investor resident visa. Lease of land. Okay? A foreign investor can lease land in the Philippines for a total of 75 years. Such leasehold right acquired under the long-term contract may be sold, transferred, or assigned. Okay? Therefore, that is a protection to the investor. Non-requisition of investment. Except in the case of war, the property designated as TEC shall not be appropriated by the government for any public purposes. Likewise, we have non-fiscal incentives about foreign currency transactions, repatriation of investment, remittance of foreign exchange, and foreign loans and contracts. Those are the right of the investor, okay, to remit their investment in the currency which was originally made and at the exchange rate prevailing at the time of repatriation, or at the time of the remittance, or at the time of the payment of your foreign loan. We will also provide you a one-stop shop, which is what we call the Chess Arcade. All of your needs, okay, regarding registration or other needs from other Philippine government agency, regulatory agency, we will do that for you. We will help you, okay, in order to facilitate the registration or the designation. We have several flagship tourism enterprise zones. Basically, we have two kinds of enterprise zone. we have the flagship, and we have the private enterprise zone. The private enterprise zones are those tourism zone that is wholly owned by the private company or private individual. While the flagship tourism enterprise zone, it is master planned by the government. The government is the one who pay for its master planning. The government also provide the zone with basic infrastructure support, like the water system, water and sewerage system, the power system, the communication system, the access road, the docking facilities, the airports will be provided by the government under the flagship tourism enterprise zone program. And just the same, we also infuse the incentives, which I have already mentioned a while ago. An example of our flagship tourism enterprise zone is the San Vicente Long Beach in Palawan. It is a 14-kilometer long beach, okay? And it is expected to be transformed into a dynamic and environmentally sustainable tourism destination. In our master plan, we have a zone within that enterprise zone wherein the investor can put up the branded hotels, the resorts, the all aspect of the tourism. In the development, actually we have already the airport, the international airport in such place. The development includes beach and mountain resorts, agri-tourism, cultural heritage tourism, the retirement village, the accommodation, airport, and the cruise tourism. We have also the Mount Samat Shrine of Valor flagship tourism enterprise. It is located in the province of Bataan, and it features heritage tourism, wherein several Filipino, American, and Japanese soldiers have died in that area because of the World War II. Lastly, among our 6 flagship, we have also the Panglao Bay Premier Tourism Enterprise Zone, which is located in Panglao, Bohol. It is an expanse of 111 hectares of mostly greenfield areas that will be positioned as a mixed-use, large-scale integrated resort, leisure resorts. Actually, our partner in this kind of tourism zone is a private entity or a private businessman, and they are looking for investment to put branded hotel in their tourism zone. Okay, I think I have. For more questions, we will have it answered after the presentation of my next speaker. Thank you.
You have heard of the investment opportunities in our tourism economic zones. Our next presentation is another of TIEZA's investment products, our TIEZA assets. Here is Ms. Maria Evelyn Francisco, Head of TIEZA's Business Development Department.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon to all our guests in our TIEZA Tourism Investment Presentation. The assets management sector, also another sector of TIEZA, is designated to manage TIEZA assets and ensure that they contribute to corporate objectives. Among others, the AMS committed to enhance utilization of assets and increase financial viability. The TIEZA operating properties is serving clients from Luzon to Mindanao, from hotel management to recreation such as golf and scuba diving. TIEZA continues to develop partnerships both with private sector and local governments as a strategy in managing its assets, increasing the beneficiaries of tourism development. As part of the rationalization of its assets, TIESA has classified several assets to facilitate its tourism investment promotions initiative. It is developments which offers opportunities in master plan TIESA assets in Cebu and Boracay, and also in the north, in Ilocos Norte. We also have assets in Zamboanga. It has also prospects which offers diverse possibilities for TIESA assets, allowing the investor more options on what kind of development it envisions for the property. We have from north to south, we have in Argao, sorry, that's in Cebu, Agao Playa in the north, and Cambirag in Cebu also. San Fabian in Pangasinan. So it's nationwide, different parts of the country. And we have our operating entities, such as Banawi Hotel, located in the World Heritage Site. If you've been to Banawi, you'll see the Banawi Rice Terraces. We have Balikasal Island Dive Resort with 5 spectacular dive spots known worldwide. And Club Intermore's golf course, we offer day and night golf. It's a par 66 golf course, right in the heart of the city. This is located in Cagayan de Oro in Mindanao. That's Gardens of Malasan Ecotourism Village. So our properties are jump-off destinations for culture, nature, and adventure. This is the museum about Rizal and our pre-colonial period. Zamboanga Golf Course is a par 77 championship golf course. It is also offered for investment. What we are focusing and offering to you investors are 5 assets for investment. Mount Tata is located in the north in a Tranquil Mountain Resort, an interesting destination. This is Balikasal Island Dive Resort. 25 kilometers, we have right now an operating entity, 1.5 hectares. We have a dive shop. We have a marine sanctuary. This is Boracay, the famous Boracay Island. It is envisioned to be a wellness medical facility. No. I think everybody's enjoying Boracay, so we're ending in Boracay. And this is Barrio Balacan property in Ilocos Norte. We also have mini sand dunes there, and it is envisioned for golf course and other mixed-use property. Okay. So to close, we wish to invite you, our guests, our investors, to explore and examine and probe the potentials of tourism investments in the Philippines. And let us take this first step with you. As Emily Dickinson said, the possible slow fuse is lit by the imagination. So mabuhay and salamat po. Thank you.
They say what seems ain't always what is, but what you will see in the next video is exactly the same attractiveness and charm you will experience in the Philippines and with Filipinos. Here is a visual summary of what TIESA has just presented.
Palawan, consistently voted the most beautiful island in the world. Palawan draws millions of tourists to its pristine waters every year and generates hundreds of millions in total revenue. And now, Palawan offers another exciting destination. A stretch of paradise. San Vicente. San Vicente is conveniently located near 3 airports in Palawan. The San Vicente Airport, with its ongoing expansion, will likewise open as a much closer entry point to El Nido. Poised to be the Philippines' new pride as a world-renowned tourist destination, this first-class municipality offers visitors a unique experience, combining nature, culture, and modern lifestyle in one destination. San Vicente attracts thousands of tourists and entices a number of investors to its world-class shores. Business is developing with island resorts, pension houses, markets, telecommunication, and energy providers already in operation. An 883-hectare area of land along San Vicente's Long Beach will be developed into the San Vicente Flagship Tourism Enterprise Zone. Its unique 14-kilometer coast is the longest stretch in the Philippines. The San Vicente Flagship TEZ is seen as a catalyst for growth of the whole municipality. Green sustainable development principles will guide the flagship TEZ's development to ensure economic growth, sustainability, environment-friendly urbanism, agritourism, and empowerment of the local community. The vision for the San Vicente Flagship TEZ is a robust tourism hub with diverse options and amenities for visitors, which highlight the natural and cultural assets of the area. Development will be divided into 4 theme-specific growth centers. Cluster 1 will focus on sun and beach ecotourism. Here, developments will be targeted for the high-income market, with focus on rest and relaxation. Retirement tourism, nautical ecotourism, agritourism, and beach activities. Cluster 2 will be the center for adventure, marine sports, and entertainment for mid-income markets. Investment opportunities for dining, retail, and adventure facilities are focused here. Cluster 3 is home of the indigenous peoples of San Vicente. Aside from commercial establishments, this area will also be developed for agritourism. Cluster 4 will be developed for the high-income market. This will be the go-to area for highly exclusive resorts. Priority center for development of the TEZ is the 14-kilometer long beach in Cluster 1, where sumo rise, beach resorts, mountain resorts, second homes and retirement villas, agritourism areas, business hotels, community centers, parks and recreation areas, mixed-use commercial establishments, and a boat dock. More than 160,000 rooms are needed to meet the projected demand from tourist arrivals in Cluster 1. Any investment for the development of the TEZ will be a catalyst for growth of San Vicente as a whole. The government will fund basic infrastructure and will offer incentives to encourage private investment. San Vicente Flagship Tourism Enterprise Zone, an array of exciting possibilities. Make it your own. Make it your San Vicente.
In the Philippines' most recognizable eco-cultural destination, from one of the leading retail, agro-industrial, and resort companies in central Philippines, comes the first world-class integrated resort destination in the country, Panlao Bay in Bohol. A deluxe integrated resort development of spectacular hillside scenery and the longest stretch of white sand beach in Panglao Island. Only an hour's flight from Manila and soon, direct air services from the top tourist destinations in Asia. Banlao Bay will be the gateway to the rich cultural tradition and natural wonder of Bohol, and the signature tourism and leisure community of the province, all in keeping with the principles of green development and responsible tourism. Premium accommodation properties, a refreshing green zone that provides a relaxing trail of permaculture, endemic tropical flora and fauna, canopy walks, and landscape pockets to catch your breath. Bohol's playground for wholesome beach fun will be the showcase for Banlao Bay's adaptive conservation program that ensures responsible and sustainable appreciation of Bohol's coastal and marine environments. The village market is where the best local farmers, craftsmen, and artists bring the authentic spirit of Bohol community life to Banlao Bay's Creative Center. Explore the specialty shops and unique food stalls as you wind your way down the tourist road to the beach. The Banlao Bay Meetings and Convention Center will be the island's primary venue for international and national conventions. But if you want more private events for very special occasions, we'll have a place for you as well. Resort development done right. Tourism done the Bohol way. Banlao Bay in Bohol.
With a total land area of about 10,202 hectares, Mindanao is the second biggest island in the Philippines, with rich natural resources and culture and a richer potential for development and growth. To give an overview of the Mindanao Investment Corridor with special focus on tourism investment, here is the Chief of Staff to the Secretary of the Mindanao Development Authority, Mr. Abul Kair Amalon M. Alonto II.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I represent the Mindanao Development Authority, and I extend my warmest greetings to all of you who are here for this Philippine Country Roundtable at the annual investment meeting. I'm glad that a number of representatives from a wide cross-section of investors, businessmen, and investment promotion agencies around the world are here, especially those from our host country, the UAE. Next slide. Sorry. Let me talk to you a bit about why it's the best time to invest in the Philippines, most especially in Mindanao. Mindanao is open for business. For the first time in our history, we have a president from Mindanao. In the course of the past several months, since the historic assumption of President Rodrigo R. Duterte, our office, the Mindanao Development Authority, has been initiating public and private sector meetings, both in local and in the international arena, to bring forth one important message, that Mindanao is open and ready for business. As what our colleagues from the Tourism Infrastructure and Enterprise Zone Authority have presented a few minutes ago, now is the best time to seize opportunities for business in the Philippines, and most especially in Mindanao. Big things are happening in the Philippine economy with its robust macroeconomic fundamentals and performing 7.1% GDP growth last year, which is one of the highest in the Asia Pacific. For the past 5 years, actually, Philippines remains to have an investment grade status conferred by 3 of the world's major credit rating agencies: Fitch Rating, Standard & Poor's, and Moody's. In Mindanao, which is found in the southern part of the country, the same economic dynamism has been seen over the last 5 years, with its gross regional domestic product, exports and investments consistently growing at an average of 6 to 7%. This is an encouraging feat rallied through President Duterte's overarching philosophy of governance, which is partnering for change. Next slide. To give you a background of Mindanao, for many years Mindanao has remained an undiscovered gem.
It is one of the 3 island groups of the Philippines, and it occupies about 133,656 square kilometers. Mindanao occupies 39% of the Philippines' total area, which is almost twice the size of the UAE. It is endowed with key ingredients for a prime investment area within the Philippines. Mindanao is blessed with an abundance of primary resources, including minerals, and still has large tracts of idle lands. We have 6 administrative regions, 27 provinces, and 33 cities. We are home to some 22 million people, and around 20% of which are Muslim. Mindanao, together with Palawan and the southern Philippines, are active players in the sub-regional economic cooperation, which is called the Brunei Darussalam Indonesia Philippines East ASEAN Growth Area, or BIMPIAGA. This economic cooperation was born in 1994 in Davao City, which is one of the mega cities in Mindanao. Owing to its geographic advantage, Mindanao and the BIMPIAGA have become a testbed for ASEAN programs and policies, particularly in trade, transport, and tourism and investment linkages. By April 30 of this year, we will be opening a new sea route in the ASEAN that will link the cities of Davao and General Santos in Mindanao to the port of Bitong in North Sulawesi in Indonesia. The ASEAN roll-on roll-off ferry service will begin plying the said route, and this will provide a faster and cheaper channel of trading goods among the BIMPIAGA's key cities. MV Super Shuttle Roro 14, operated by the Asian Marine Transport Corporation, is expected to provide a weekly shipping service to the route with a vessel capacity of 100 TEUs or 20-foot equivalent units. The opening of the route is a more cost and time efficient alternative to the usual Manila to Bitong route, which would take about 3 to 5 weeks of shipping time. With this new route, direct shipping from Davao, Jansan Bitong will take only 1 day and a half of sailing and a maximum of 5 days. So from 5 weeks, we will be able to reduce it to 5 days. In recent years, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, has strongly noted the importance of BIMPIAGA in providing the building blocks for regional integration, largely due to its trade and investment linkages, including cultural and historical ties among member countries. It's also fortunate this year, Philippines is the chair of both BIMPIAGA and the ASEAN, and in fact, the ASEAN Summit will be conducted in the Philippines at the end of this month. Next slide. Mindanao has bountiful natural wealth. It is touted as the food basket of the Philippines. It's blessed with favorable agroclimatic conditions, with fertile soil and rich biodiversity, which makes it suitable for food production and agribusiness development. As of 2014, Mindanao's agricultural land area represents 36% of the country's total farm area, but yields 43% of the country's total farm produce. Mindanao's competitive advantage in agriculture is as we produce most agricultural products. Mindanao is in fact the leading supplier of rubber, pineapple, banana, and cacao in the Philippines. Mindanao has graduated from near supplier of fresh foods into a net exporter of agri-based products and processed foods. Our top 10 exports include tuna, coconut oil, bananas, pineapple, among others. The prospects of further expansion of various export products remain wide. The huge growing Islamic market in Asia and the Middle East provides opportunities for halal industries, especially for producers for Muslim Mindanao. Mindanao boasts of its young, highly literate, talented, and dynamic human resource. We have ample, competent, and skilled human resources available, possessing the desired qualities of being highly educated, English proficient, highly trainable, and possess easy adaptability to universal work culture and competencies based on global standards. The Mindanao Development Authority was established through Republic Act 9996 with the goal of enhancing the socio-economic development of Mindanao in close coordination with stakeholders and partners. Our agency is guided by the Mindanao 2020 Peace and Development Framework, which is a 30-year long-term framework plan for Mindanao and outlines key spatial strategies that will help pave the way for a connected and globally competitive Mindanao. This spatial strategy has been translated into what we now coin as the Mindanao Development Corridors. The Development Corridors approach optimizes the growth of the regions based on their potentials and strategic roles in the overall development of our island economy. We have identified 3 development corridors: the Northern Mindanao Development Corridor, which is envisioned to be a world-class industrial and services center; the South Central Mindanao Development Corridor, which aims to be the chief source of the country's major agricultural products; and the Western Mindanao Development Corridor, which is the country's gateway to Bimpiaga. Mindanao has great potentials and opportunities for tourism, given its spectacular landscapes and varied array of tourist attractions for various interests, including history and culture, adventure, natural beauty, and ecotourism. Mindanao is where you can find the country's tallest mountain, Mount Apo, which stands at 2,954 meters. The island is a sanctuary of the country's Philippine eagle, and it's estimated that there are around 400 remaining Philippine eagles in the country. And some of these eagles can be found in the Philippine Eagle Center in Davao City, where our office is located. Mindanao hosts two of the country's largest river basins, the Mindanao River Basin and the Agusan River Basin. Under the Mindanao Development Corridors, we are currently doing an assessment study on the biodiversity and ecotourism cluster of the South Central Mindanao Development Corridor. The cluster is characterized by a diverse ecosystem with rainforests, cave formations, rivers, pristine shorelines, and critical habitats of endemic flora and fauna. It's in this cluster you'll find the UNESCO World Heritage Site of Mount Hamiguitan Range and Wildlife Sanctuary in San Isidro, Davao Oriental. Mount Hamiguitan has an area of more than 16,000 hectares, of which 6,834 was declared as a protected area. The range is home to an astonishing diversity of species, including the Philippine eagle. Its habitat of 1,381 species of flora and fauna. It showcases terrestrial and aquatic habitats at different elevations and includes around 341 threatened and endemic flora and fauna species. Also under this cluster as follows, the Aliwagwag Falls in Katil, Mindanao's Niagara Falls, the Tinuyan Falls in Bislig City, Surigao and the Laswitan Rock Formation, which transforms into a waterfall when strong waves brought by the seawater cascades down its rocky slopes. We have partnered with TIEZA and the Department of Tourism in conducting a thorough analysis of the strengths, potentials, and opportunities of the various tourism sites in Mindanao. We've conducted joint workshops in identifying strategies and innovative approaches on how to develop the various biodiversity and ecotourism destinations comprising Mindanao's eastern seaboard. As such, we have identified the potential investment opportunities on accommodation tourism-related facilities, tourism-related transport facilities, and other tourism-related enterprises. We are now in the process of identifying tourism enterprise zones in various areas in Mindanao, and we encourage investments on tourism enterprises, but not limited to the following: travel and tour services, tourist transport services, adventure sports services, convention organizers, accommodation establishments, theme parks, convention centers, zoos, tourism estate management services, restaurants, and shops, sports and recreational centers, spas, facilities offering health and wellness services, and even museums and galleries. The next few slides will give you some snapshots of these potential areas in Mindanao which can even be further developed for tourism. You have Lake Lanao in Lanao del Sur, the Liguasan Marsh in Maguindanao, the Cagayan de Oro River in Cagayan de Oro City, the Maria Cristina Falls in Iligan City, Lake Cebu in South Cotabato, Sunset Boulevard in Dipolog City, and the Turtle Island in Baguan Island, Tawi-Tawi. Definitely we encourage the development of tourism ecozones, specialized tourism development zones where tourism accommodation facilities and recreation facilities are provided to render tourism services for both local and foreign tourists. Investors will be able to avail of fiscal and non-fiscal incentives from TIEZA, as mentioned earlier, to provide better access to these biodiversity and ecotourism sites. The Duterte government has increased the spending for infrastructure, most especially in Mindanao, with public-private partnerships playing a key role. Adequate infrastructure and support facilities are required to access these tourism sites, such as road networks and bridges, airports and/or seaports development. Through the Mindanao Development Corridors Program, MINDA, in coordination with key implementing national line agencies, will construct interregional roads, develop our gateway ports and airports, and install the necessary support facilities, such as transport terminals and other tourism-related support facilities. The upcoming Mindanao Railway project is being planned and we will be implementing under this context. The railway system will run through different regions of Mindanao, and we're currently working on getting the feasibility study for the Tagum Davao-Digos segment to be started this year. Investing in infrastructure development in Mindanao is a key thrust of this administration, and we'll try to, I'll be enumerating some of the major transport, tourism, and logistic projects in Mindanao. For transport logistics, we have the Trans-Mindanao High-Speed Railway Project, roads and bridges projects in Mindanao, Pangil Bay Bridge, ports and airports development, we have Laguindingan Airport Development Project, the Davao International Airport, General Santos City Airport Improvement, Tagum City Aerotropolis, the new Zamboanga City International Airport, Polyok Port Project for the Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao, Tawi-Tawi and Ticong Freeport, also part of the Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao, and other ongoing ports and seaports and airports. To improve connectivity, the Trans-Mindanao High-Speed Railway Project is one of the priority projects of President Duterte for Mindanao. A business case has been completed and they are now doing a detailed feasibility study which hopes to be completed by end of this year. The development of Mindanao's tourism sites and corridors will complement the other economic corridors, especially the other economic zones that we have in Mindanao. Currently, there are 34 operating economic zones in Mindanao, of which 13 are agro-industrial ecozones, 8 are in manufacturing, 8 are IT centers, and 4 are IT parks, and host most of our locators who are into business process outsourcing, creative services, software development, and innovation. We also have 1 tourism-related economic zone. The Duterte administration has recognized the strategic importance of economic zones to the country's economic development, particularly in increasing investments and generating the needed employment. This plan of the current administration in creating more economic zones, especially in the countryside, is a wise policy direction, as this will create more local employment and attract more foreign direct investments in the countryside. So in closing, while the Philippine economy has rapidly expanded in recent years, bringing the Philippines into the ranks of Asia's best economic performers, we note that a commensurate impact on reducing unemployment has yet to be felt by our people in Mindanao. We believe that we need foreign direct investments that would provide jobs to our people and will substantially assist us in our aim of inclusive and sustainable growth. So finally, allow me to invite you to invest in the Philippines. We will also invite you to come and visit the country and to come visit Mindanao. There are regular flights that connect Dubai to the Philippines and several flights that connect Philippines to the entire global community. We also have a forthcoming Ecozone Convergence and Expo event on October 12 to 14 in Davao City, and we would invite you to this event. Our investment team at the Mindanao Development Authority, together with TIESA and the whole Philippine investment team, would be more than glad to assist you. Buhay and good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullah.
Thank you very much for that appealing speech about opportunities in Mindanao. And to tie up so we have presented the tourism potential of the Philippines, presented where we can do investments and what we can get from these investments. So maybe invite our speakers to be in front of the panel, and we would like to open the floor for any questions, clarifications, inquiries that you might have on the presentations. That's what was made. So I would like everybody to join everybody, or invite anybody to ask any question, inquiry that they have on the tax incentives being offered. Yes, sir.
Yeah, can I ask you a question? It's not tourism related. It's exactly about what you said on the tax extension. Tax extension. Just to give you a bit of back. Do I need it?
No, you don't, but.
Okay. Do I need it? No. Okay. Just to give you a bit of background, we had an option last year whether to expand our company into Singapore or the Philippines. We chose the Philippines, and so we've set up there, and we're going through the incorporation process and all the rest of the stuff there. And although we get a tax incentive, I know about the tax incentive, I didn't know about the potential for an extension, and I just wondered. Is that solely for the free zones, or is that across the board?
Okay, thank you, sir. It is solely for the tourism.
Right.
tourism establishment. If your company is not in a tourism, I think it is other incentives.
Right.
But our incentives would be 6 years plus an extendable 6 years for the tax exemption.
All right. Not to worry. Okay, thank you.
There's still a chance. There are many other assets.
Okay, thanks. Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir. And next, sir.
May I, you mentioned a 5% of the gross as tax incentive in the tourism. Would you define gross for me, please?
The gross income taxation means it is the gross sales or the gross receipt less the allowable deduction,
Fine, thank you.
such as the
Gross
cost of
revenue.
sales. Yes,
Gross
gross
revenue.
revenue.
Thank you.
We'd just like to add that for the 5%, this is in place or in lieu of all national and local taxes. So you'll be exempted from all national and local taxes.
Just verify.
You just pay the 5% gross.
Thank you.
Yes, sir? Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, still on the tourism sector, you have not touched base on the airline business. I mean, how is the airline going in line with your vision of the growth of your tourism that you're projecting in that sense?
Our airlines, the airline industry is under the CAAF or the aviation in the Philippines. But we have a convergence with that government agency in like we call in building international airports. In what I have presented previously, the San Vicente and the Bohol, Panglao Bohol, it will have an international airport, and it is now it is almost complete. And we are planning, or the Philippine government is planning to have the first flight, or the maiden flight, this coming May of 2017.
And to add to that, in support of tourism for the government has enacted some policies like the open skies policies, which has have liberated airline companies or foreign airline companies from operating in the Philippines. So right now there's an increase in foreign airlines operating in the Philippines. And as Sir Hernan said, the Panglao and the San Vicente are both international airports. So we're expecting international or foreign airlines to be operating soon in the area.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Yeah, I just have one question. With regards to the freehold areas that is located by TESA, you mentioned on different islands, whether it's Mindanao, whether it's in Bohol. Are those very specifically already identified, or as an investor comes in, the areas can become freehold and can become free zone, or it's already confirmed?
Those areas are already identified by the government. The Palawan, the Panglao, such area was already master planned and identified as a tourism enterprise zones.
I don't think they mentioned it's freehold. I think it's a leasehold. And freehold is like you own it. Leasehold you can own it to a maximum of 75 years.
Correct.
It's leasehold, not
It's
freehold.
leasehold.
Yes.
50%.
Thank you.
So the investor has the option of going into any of the 6 identified zones,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes.
So I can choose.
Yes, you can choose.
And to add to that, sir, these identified zones have already been master planned, so there's already zoning, and there are already best use studies which you can use. So these studies and master plan limits the risk that the investor will take in coming in. So, yes, sir.
What is the grace period once you acquire a lease land? What is the grace period that we have in terms of fit out construction?
Grace periods in our registration process, it is usually 120 days in order to process such registration. But regarding grace period, it should be a case-to-case basis. Okay. In a master plan, di ba, if you will want to invest in a zone, the whole zone will be owned by your company. Usually, we give 5 years in order for the development to take place. It could be in phases, but it should be within 5 years. But it could be extended upon approval of our board.
And the tax regime starts how many years after completion? 1 year after, 2 years after?
Actually, it will start upon
completion.
Yes, upon the start of business operation.
Commercial operation.
Yes, commercial operation.
That's for the tax regime on the start of the business operation, but for the tax and duty-free importation, that's upon registration. So
Yeah, because you have to prove it.
yes, you'll be able to import.
In that area, that can you tell us that which brands are already there, international brands in the hospitality?
Cesar. Brand, international brand in San Vicente.
Actually, San Vicente, the whole municipality of San Vicente, is mostly a greenfield area. So actually, we're trying to invite international brands, and though we have like a confidentiality clause with some of the international brands that are already in process applying with TIEZA. So I can say that we have around 2 international brands already applying.
Single units or multiple units? For 1 unit each or multiple units for each brand? So if you have 2 brands, for example, are they going to set up 1 hotel each or more than 1?
I think it's more than 1 hotel, more than 1 resort.
Just wanting to know what the market is like.
You can.
One more question on tourism, that these tourists coming, okay, can you tell us which area of the world that most of the tourists divided coming from?
Your tourist arrivals, which countries?
Yes, usually the Department of Tourism will provide the tourist arrival on which area in the Philippines they usually come in. But the perspective is very encouraging, because we have the tourist arrivals, increasing tourist arrivals in such areas that I have presented, like the Bohol and the Palawan.
Say which nationalities?
Nationalities.
On our record, it is the Koreans. Is the national. It's the #1 tourist in the Philippines are Koreans. Also.
Yeah, Dr. Tarek, if I may, yes, he's right. It's the Korean, it's Northeast Asians in particular, Chinese, Japanese, and Koreans. But we all, yeah, yes, Chinese, Japanese, and Koreans. And then we also have the U.S.-based and the Filipino Americans. The turning, yeah, the Filipinos already who have the foreign nationality or foreign passports and then go back home. But what we're trying to do and what we've been trying to impress upon our tourism department is the lure of the Arab world or Dubai as a transshipment or a trans-network from, let's say, Europe or Africa or even South America onto the Philippines, which Thailand has successfully done. And that's what we've been trying to impress upon to our tourism people, to lure as more tourists from this part of the world using the wonderful aviation network of Dubai International Airport and Emirates.
Question. Okay, good afternoon. I'm Marika from the Gulf today. I thought of the halal pathway of the Philippines because we know that the halal industry is booming and Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia are ahead of us. Now, how halal friendly are we? Because in the last ATM, Arab Tourism Travel Mart, 2016, Art Bongkato, who's from Southern Mindanao, my friend, is the ASEC in tourism, which shifted to the Department of Trade now, and Industry. He's been pushing for that. Now, how halal friendly are we now? With, you have the TIEZA and we have the Mindanao. I know that Mindanao is on that. but how halal tourism are we now? How halal friendly are we now? Especially that we are in the Middle East and we are encouraging more tourist investors and more tourism visitors from this part of the world.
Thank you for that question. The head of the Mindanao Development Authority sits on the newly formed Halal Export and Promotion Board. So right now we're still crafting our implementing rules and regulations on how to rationalize and strategize on developing the halal industry for the Philippines. But we do have halal certifiers. In fact, ASEC Art Bongkato has already started a certification program for hotels in the Philippines. I don't have the figures with me right now, but there are hotels in the Philippines that are halal certified as far as the Department of Tourism is concerned. I'm not sure how many are actually under the Tourism Infrastructure and Enterprise Zone Authority, but for hotels in the Philippines, there are halal certified hotels already. But that we're incorporating that into our promotion board in furthering the halal industry in the Philippines. So in fact, we are going to sign a memorandum of an agreement with ESMA. This might happen this month. We've already signed a document. It's for the review of ESMA in helping us in achieving the standardization and accreditation processes in halal certification.
Sir. Good afternoon. My name Ali Al Hassouni. My wife Maribik Tioro from Philippines. We are developer of the economy for the future of the countries. And your country, it is great country, have 7,000 islands. You have, it means more than 7,000 coasts. That's for fishery. It is very important food for the world. You have very high quality of skilled people worldwide, go in million, and they are ready to go back return to invest the power and the capital from outside to develop Philippines for the world, hand in hand with other countries in freedom and tolerantity and exchangeable. You are very rich of green land and water war starts already between some countries, and it's very important that your country, it is the central of production of the food for the world. You have 200 countries in the world, and you should have 1% of production in electronic and in production of food and service. We make project, I mean me, my team and my wife, with foundation capital of $5 million, and this is 50% local investor with government and 50% international. And we are interested to discuss this project with you after the meeting direct with you, His Excellency. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It's our pleasure. We'll be meeting with you, sir, after this, together with TIEZA and our consulate office in Minda. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. And I'd like to apologize. We'll be able to take in one last question. And for other questions, we have a booth in the exhibitors lounge, and so that we can continue with our clarifications and inquiries. But we'll be able to entertain one last question. Who would like to make the last question? Yes.
In terms of the company incorporation in the Philippines, do you need a local sponsor or you can own 100% ownership?
With TIEZA, we are allowed to have 100% owned by foreign nationals for the company. But you just have to register the corporation with the Philippine Securities and Exchange Commission.
Oh, we have to go there.
Yeah, we have to register.
Is listing a possibility?
Pardon, sir?
Is listing the company a possibility later on?
Public listing.
Public listing.
Yes.
Possible. Good job. That's it.
If I may, just as a final pitch, the Philippines has always been known to be the secret of the world. Everybody knows where Thailand is. Everybody goes to Bali, to Phuket, to Bangkok, to Singapore, to KL, and to everywhere else in Southeast Asia. But as I said, most of the global tourism market looks at the Philippines as a quiet place to be. Now, the Philippines has been gaining a lot of publicity in the last couple of years, particularly with Palawan being named, at least as far as Condé Nast Travelers is concerned, as the best island in the world. And clearly there is so much as far as tourism is concerned, as far in the Philippines is concerned. And what we would like to impress upon everyone else is that the Philippines is here for business. We have our political infrastructure in place, our economics are wonderful, but mostly because our geography and where we are in the world is exactly where we have what we want to project. The Philippines sits on is sort of like the capital of biodiversity in the world, being the center of that marine coral triangle. And when we mean biodiversity, what we'd like to share what the Philippines has as far as marine resources, marine aquaculture is concerned, to the rest of the world who look now at environmental tourism in place. And aside from that, we'd also like to make a pitch because the Philippines is the home to the Filipino people. And the Filipino people have made a positive impact not only in Dubai, not only in the UAE, but the global market as well. In as much as the Philippines are the Philippines produces one of the best professionals in the world: healthcare, teachers, architects, engineers, and of course the most handsome foreign service officers. Thank you.
Yes. Very modest. Very modest.
That's the truth.
Voice too.
So may I just invite, we are open for partnership, joint venture, sale, lease and operation and management of our assets.
And thank you very much for attending. We'd just like to invite everyone for a photo shoot of our roundtable event. We can use this as our backdrop of the roundtable.